Hi there guys, just some ordinary dude here, and I'm once again joined by Mia, also known as With The Flow. How are you
Hi.
today? Yeah?
I'm good.
Yeah, and what we're going to do today is a bit of a sequel to the first podcast recording I did with Mia, where we talked about just our overall thoughts on the character of Lynn Jr, and what we liked about her, what the show did well with her, also some of the things the show didn't do particularly well with her. But that's where we're going to come into today's talk, where we're just going to discuss what we want to see the show still do with her going forward. Like, if I were to throw this one in your cup for the start, Mia, what would you like to see the show do?
I would. Hang on. I think I would really like to see the show expand her intelligence more.
Okay.
Because Lynn is very smart, even though a lot of people don't realize it.
That's an interesting point, actually. I mean, one thing I remember is what was it? The episode Future Tense, was it? Where she ended up taking a mathematics course and aced it after one day, which does show that she probably has the potential to excel at academics, but she just doesn't really care for it.
And like, to do so many sports, you obviously have to be pretty smart.
Well, this is fair. This is true. You've got to. You got to understand certain things like about strategy and tactics, and even physics to a point, maths to be able to calculate things and be able to work out problems physically, like on the field or whatever it is you're doing. So that is a fair point. I think people almost sort of see her as a bit dumb because that's how the characters view her. Like, if you think about all her book dumb moments,
I think Lynn's a lot smarter than her siblings think.
Probably, yeah. Lisa. Well, yeah, most of the siblings. Well, Lisa thinks everybody's dumb compared to her, which, okay, to be fair, they probably are, but, you know, they probably are. But in the case of Lynn, like whenever she does something that's really book dumb, it's usually because it's in the imagination of one of the other characters. Like, what was it? Butterfly Effect, where, of course, it's all in Lincoln's head or something, and he thinks that if Lisa stops tutoring Lynn, she'll fail at all her studies. And then you've got things like Really Loud Music, where, what was it? Luna imagines her spelling the word trophy wrong.
Wrong.
Yeah, spelling it with an F instead of a P and a H. And I almost think like the majority of her book dumb moments are actually her siblings imagining her doing it rather than her actually doing it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But you're right. I think Lynn is smarter than she's given credit for. She has I think the main thing is because she's so hot-headed and sort of impulsive and maybe a bit reckless at times that people assume that's the same thing as being stupid. But that's not entirely true.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, so you say you want to see what exact? Do you have like a sort of story where they could play into Lynn's intelligence? Maybe like how do you think that would work in a narrative sense?
Well,
let's say like there's a story where, I don't know, she has to be like really strategic or something, or she has to be good at maths somehow. Is there a way like they could incorporate that into it story-wise? Because obviously you have to have a reason for Lynn to show her intelligence. I mean, there are. Yeah. Sorry, go on.
Okay, maybe they can show it by her playing chess or something. Because you know Lynn's really competitive, and chess is a pretty hard game. You have to be very strategic to play it.
Well, yeah. Didn't they show that in one of the comics?
Yes, that's where I got the idea from.
Yeah, because they did that. They do that sort of thing in the comics quite a lot, don't they?
They did once.
Yeah, I think there's a comic where she was playing Jenga with Lynn Sr. as well, if I remember correctly. But yeah, and there's also little jokes like Time Trap, which have a surprisingly show, astute intelligence and awareness. Like where she's the one to say, "I've got a question, brain box. Won't going back in time destroy the fabric of the space-time continuum?"
At least it was so shocked.
Yeah, and then Lynn. There's that little scene between Lynn and Lola where she's like, "Hey, see, I'm really smart," and then Lisa says, "I'm stunned it came out of your mouth." Then Lola's like, "Ha ha ha ha." Like, there's obviously some kind of tension there where Lynn's trying to prove she's actually smarter than they think, and then when something else happens to the contrary, the others tease her for it. There is something there.
Yeah.
Subtly, it's subtly shown. But yeah, I suppose there is a way you could maybe bring that into it somehow, like a Lynn Takes All sequel episode where she's playing different kinds of board games, or chess games, stuff like that. That could be an interesting way to potentially implement that aspect of her character, to work on that in a story. That could be a possibility, I think. But then there's obviously the elephant in the room, the one that we sort of already touched on a little bit in the first podcast, and that's they need to balance out the noble acts of her strength against the use of her as an antagonist. So obviously her strength is only ever used for gags, or for her to be the antagonist to the other siblings, like in Snow Escape, which was a fun episode. But obviously we do need, I think, more episodes where she's like the solution because of her brawn, where rather than like part of the problem, because it always seems like, oh, she's part of the problem or is the actual problem. But whenever a story arises that could actually benefit from her being as tough as she is, she's either written out of the story entirely, like in Noble Snowfuss. Yeah. Or, there's episodes where she's unable to stop the threat, and it's like, but she should be stronger than that. Now, Stealing Thunder, that recent episode for Season 8, was a small step in the right direction. Because obviously in that episode, she saves Lincoln from falling off the house, and she wrestles a crocodile for him. And that's pretty good. She does something good for her brother that utilises her status as the strong, tough, athletic one. And that's good. That's a small step in the right direction, but I still think there's a lot more they could do there, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Or like in camp, when she saved her family, like, from falling.
In camp where... And there was also Hide and Sneak in the road trip arc, where she uses her hand speed and strength to slow down that thing from falling with them all on it, if you remember.
Oh, yeah.
So there's technically twice where she's done that now. But yeah, I mean, obviously, what else would you like to see from her character, just in general?
Her protecting her siblings more.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, that leans into what I've just said. But yeah, it's kind of interesting because what kind of ideas, like plot scenarios, could you see where this could come into play?
Probably with her and Chandler.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I think we'd all love to see an episode where Lynn just beats the hell out of Chandler finally at long last. I mean, it's like we know Lincoln can't exactly do it. I mean, Lincoln and Clyde tried to double team him in 1 in a Million and still weren't able to do it. And it's not like Chandler's even that much of a tough guy, but Lincoln's kind of a bit of a wimp. So, although that depends on the episode, to be fair. In Family Bonding, he was quite badass, but yeah, obviously Lynn should easily be able to overpower that little runt Chandler. So you'd like to see her finally intervene in one episode and maybe stuff him in a locker. Stuff him in a locker and give him a Dutch oven. Yeah, that would be a hilarious scene. But yeah, obviously I think that's one everyone would love to see. But yeah, other than the bleeding obvious, obviously we want to see her use her strength for more noble acts. You can still use it for jokes and the occasional antagonistic role as well, don't get me wrong, but you do have to have that balance between the two to say, look, having Lynn around isn't just a bad thing. And I think that's part of the problem, because when they only use her to be an antagonist and never for anything good, it creates the impression that she's good for nothing, she's just a bully, she's just a selfish jerk, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, that's where they get it from.
And that's part of the problem. That's where all the Lynn haters come from. And it's like, we're still at this point all these years later, and it kind of
toning it down a bit.
Yeah, they are toning it down, and as a result, the Lynn hate is starting to die down to a point. But it's like, I'm going to be honest. Yeah, I just want it to get to a point where like it never existed in the first place. Like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I always say Lynn is my favourite character, and she is, but I always have to continue that with Bert, and then say all this other stuff. It's like, oh, for God's sake, why can't I just be able to say it without having to add all that other stuff in? Because it's like, Lola fans don't get it, because obviously she was also quite an unpopular character at the start as well, but she's had so much great development and stories, and they've managed to handle her characterisation so much more consistently well that, you know, it's like, you don't need to really justify it anymore. But with Lynn, you still kind of do, and it's like, just...
Yeah, that's why they really need to flesh out her character.
Well, her character is fleshed out, it's just... Yeah.
I mean, like, develop her character, that's what I mean.
Well, yeah, she does have some development. It's just, it might not be enough yet. There's still so much more they could do with the character, and this is why... Yeah, this is the thing with Lynn Jr. I said this recently on a subreddit post. It's like, the news about her, anything surrounding Lynn Jr. gets more attention, whether it be positive, negative, or indifference, than any other character. She is like the John Cena of the late 2000s of the Loud House. It's almost like, let's go, Lena. Lena sucks. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. But it's like, look at the recent stuff with the European road trip arc. Which episode synopsis has had the most attention?
Wait, sorry, what?
So let's put it this way. In the recent European road trip arc, which of the plot synopsis has had the most attention from the fandom?
The one with Lynn and her supposed crush?
Exactly. Yeah. And purely because it's a Lynn-centric thing, and whether you like Lynn or not, she always generates a lot of interest and attention. You can't deny that about her. People do care about her one way or another. That is undeniable. But yeah,
even if it's negatively,
they
seem to care about Lynn the most.
Oh yeah, she's the character I'd say with the most attention overall. It's just that it's not as much positivity as you'd like. But hey, I mean, fictional media buddy often says to me that negative publicity is better than none, and maybe that is true to a point. But wouldn't you just rather have good publicity?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, so what's your opinion on that, by the way? So obviously singled out, established that she's not really into romance. I mean, there were episodes before that where she was into romance, but that was back then when the characters weren't done very consistently. But what's your opinion of this upcoming episode?
Well, I'm actually really excited for it, because maybe we'll get to see like more of Lynn's soft or feminine side.
Interesting, yeah. I mean, it could go either way, because obviously you're going to have Laurie and Lenny in the story.
Predictable.
What do you mean by that?
Like her. Hang on.
Don't worry, take your time.
I mean, like, I don't want it to be a repeat of another episode.
Which one did you have in mind?
Singled out, but like in a bad way.
Yeah.
Hang on.
Are you thinking of maybe Back in Black, where they give Lucy a makeover and try and get her to go out with Rocky Spokes?
Oh yeah, that's the episode. I just forgot what it was called.
Yeah, that's the one you're thinking of, yeah. Because obviously... And that episode didn't really work in one way. Well, it did. I liked the Lucy and Rocky stuff, but the one thing I didn't like there was the fact that all the sisters got involved. It's like, no way would Lana, Luna, Lynn, or Lisa make Lucy look like a Barbie doll. That's not in their character. In fact, Luna got a makeover just like that the next season in really loud music, and she hated it. So why would she give one to Lucy exactly like that? You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense. In this episode, I think they're going to do a better version of that episode. Because I think it's just Laurie and Lenny, and they're not necessarily going to give her a makeover as such, although they might, and that could be interesting. But it's mainly going to be the two oldest sisters. They're going to sort of try and teach Lynn how to like get into dating, be a bit more romantic, something like that. And we'll see how it plays out. You almost sort of expect, at least at the start, it will fail because Lynn just isn't like that in her nature, and it will probably lead to some good comedy. But she might, in the third act, start to maybe get the hang of it a bit, and you could see that other side to her character maybe come out a bit more as the story goes on. Mm-hmm. Although you do almost wonder, because of depending on who exactly she falls in love with or whatever gets a crush on, will it end up with them saying, actually, we like you the way you are? That could be how it goes. Like, let's face it, Lynn could end up having a crush on some big tough macho man who would love her the way she is. I mean, that does kind of make... If you look at Singled Out, who's the kind of guy she was trying to get on a date with? Someone who could match... Someone who's
just like her.
Yeah, someone who could match her physically and competitively and athletically, all that sort of thing. And there was nobody, so she settled for a geek who had tolerance for hot food. Even though he was like the absolute opposite of her, because he was obviously quite clumsy and physically inept and everything. And a geek, and obviously she was like a little macho brute athlete. So obviously that didn't work out, but yeah, you wonder, it depends on exactly how they go about telling this story and what kind of guy she ends up having a crush on as to how I think this story will play out. But you're right, there is a lot of potential room for character growth and development and exploring new sides of her there, so that could be interesting. But like we've covered, it's just the fact that out of all 5 synopses revealed so far for this new Europe road trip arc, sure enough, the one with Lynn is the one by far getting the most attention, which has to say something.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, anything else, like, in terms of what you'd like to see from her character?
Maybe a sequel to Middlemen.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, the problem with that is we already sort of got one, and it didn't work. It was called Schooled.
Oh my, no.
Yeah, because remember, that episode took everything Middlemen established and turned it on its head. So it's like, Lynn cares about Lincoln's well-being in middle school, not in Schooled. Middle school is actually a decent place to be in, not according to Schooled. It's like, wow. I mean, I liked Schooled actually, but that subplot, that one subplot didn't work. Like, the rest of it was fine. I like the fact that Lincoln overcame all the hardship that he dealt with. That was pretty good. I liked some of the subplots involving Lily and the parents and Laurie and Lenny. That was all fine. It had some great animation and stuff like that, and some funny moments. But if there's one thing I absolutely hated, it was the Lynn Hall Monitor subplot, which just didn't work.
Yeah, it didn't work at all.
No, it really didn't. And that's the thing. Like, some people probably wouldn't understand that, but as Lynn fans, we don't like seeing her character done not very well, because it brings everything back to square one.
Skip that part.
Yeah, it brings everything back to square one. It's like, oh, we just want to move past this. You know what I mean? Yeah, it is one of those, isn't it? But yeah, when you say a sequel to Middlemen, like, do you mean something like, I mean, you almost have to think maybe like, did you remember when I did that Lynn and Order rewrite a number of months ago? So obviously I took the episode Lynn and Order and I restructured it somewhat to make it go a different way. Because I think the first half of that episode was really good, and I thought the second half kind of just went off into this weird direction that didn't. Yeah, and I actually had it. It would be a similar episode, but there'll be the Lynn and Liam conflict would become more prominent. Liam would actually confront Lynn, and the students would side with him. Lynn would go off, bullies would emerge, and the hallways would get absolutely chaotic, and then Lynn would come back and restore order by beating up the bullies. In fact, that would actually make more sense. Lynn and Order. And pretty much everyone said we preferred this version. That's the thing. I mean, the original Lynn and Order was fine, but it could have had a stronger final act. I mean, yeah, a random bobcat turning up and whatever. It's like, okay, this isn't really that relevant or particularly interesting. Yeah, I think my version would have been better, but there you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty clear there's still a lot more that could be done with this character, because I don't know if it's even possible at this point, at least not in this run. I would love to see her actually become a true fan favourite again, as if No Such Luck and all that never happened. I don't know if it's actually possible. Maybe not, because
it's still possible.
Fans do hold a grudge. If we've learned anything over the last 8 years, fans hold a grudge.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, that's just the way it is, isn't it? But maybe there's still a way to permanently save her from the scrappy heap, if you like, and make her a true fan favourite again, because it's clear there is still so much potential for this character, and when she is done well, she is the standout of any episode she's in, and that is a fact. But yeah, as arguably Lynn Jr.'s biggest ever fan, have you got any final things you want to say before we wrap it up?
No.
Okay, yeah, I think that pretty much covers everything. Yeah, I mean, all right, listeners, everyone watching this podcast, let me know in the comments what any of you would like to see the show still do with Lynn Jr. I mean, I did make some notes in that recent post I did, 10 things a Loud House could do even better. And sure, I know at least one writer did acknowledge and read this. Whitney Wetter herself did like the post. So you never know, guys. You never know.